unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What's up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I'm here with my co-host, Ian Gibson. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's been a very interesting 24 hours, 72 hours, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this has been probably one of the busiest coaching carousel cycles that we've seen. I think I saw a list of like 20 schools with openings. Just in the SEC alone, there'll be new coaches at Ole Miss, LSU, Florida, Auburn, and there was one more, Arkansas. So that's six. Yeah. That's basically like 2/5 of the league, which is kind of crazy. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about these coaching searches. So the first one that we're going to talk about is USF with Alex Golesh leaving for Auburn. They beat Rice last night pretty handedly, and then less than 24 hours later, it probably was like 12 hours later, he left for Auburn, and it's over. So the Golesh era that lasted less than 3 years resulted in a bit of a resurrection of the program. I mean, the program was in terrible shape when Jeff Scott left, and I think they won 4 games in 3 years, and then 4 games the previous year before that. So in 4 years before Golesh got there, they only won 8 games, and then Golesh won 7 wins the first year, 7, I believe, the next year, and then 9 now, which they have potential of a bowl game win as well. So definitely better than when he left it. He left the program in, a way better shape, with the athletic CEO, Rob Higgins, taking over recently. His number 2 or number 3, I can't remember what rank. It doesn't matter, but Derek Brooks is involved in the C-suite decision-making. So you've got excellent hands in the athletic department. It seems likely that the next couple of years will be a little influx until USF can get into a bigger conference. So, the on-campus stadium is coming. That should be start of 2027. And if they can move into a bigger conference after that, which would be great, which I think is definitely possible. Given their profile right now, they seem to be one of the better teams of the athletic. The media market is one of the biggest in the entire country, anywhere from 12th, 13th, 11th, whatever. The number varies depending on what the population ranks are. But, USF offers a ton, right now with his identity that he had, Golesh, with the fact that USF was an offense first team. They put up a lot of points. They didn't possess the ball very long. They moved quickly. They scored a lot. I think fans got, really attached to that. So hopefully that's something that continues. I'm not mad at Golesh. He basically set up his family for life with this move. He literally, if he invests well, it's a 6-year deal, $7.5 million a year. If he invests well, he's setting up his kids' lives as well. So I don't argue with that. You have to take that move, and especially get back into the SEC. He was coaching at Tennessee. He knows what the biggest, conference there is, and it's the SEC. And he knew he had to get to that eventually. And credit to him, because that Arkansas job would have been a very poor move. And he leveraged it into Auburn once Auburn got left at the altar by John Summerall. So, I'm not mad at Golesh. I'm happy for him. It was a good run. USF beat Florida in the Swamp. That was a huge victory. Something that, I don't know, when I first started watching USF football, I never would have thought possible. But I was there in person for that and got to see it. the next little bit's going to be, who knows? They have to figure this out because honestly, the early signing day is Wednesday. So USF's got to figure this out right now because they're hemorrhaging recruits. This class is probably, I don't know what's going to happen because I don't expect them to hire a coach right away. They may just punt this recruiting class and then just try to take transfers instead, which is probably the best move at this point. But your thoughts, Ian, on this Alex Golesh leaving?
Yeah, Golesh, I don't think people should, gave him enough credit or got the attention until this last year for the job he did. Because us as USF fans, it was by far the worst job in the state of Florida. Only other than, I think, Florida FIU, maybe. But by far, bar none, ever since, that 2018 season, the program hit rock bottom and found a further rock bottom to hit. When Jeff Scott took over, the team was directionless. It was clearly they looked like a high school team or a JUCO team. They were not ready to play and were constantly getting blown out and found ways to lose. And Golesh, under his first year, gets them to a bowl game and wins a bowl game. And I was there at the Boca Raton Bowl where I saw them beat Syracuse, shut them out. And I rushed the field with my cousin George because that was a huge moment for that program to go from literally almost 5 years of just ineptitude to finally having a winning season and winning a bowl game in your first year's head coach is a big deal. And I will say this too, obviously this season, was the high point. There's still no disrespect to Golesh because obviously he did more than what we expected. If you look back at our old shows when he first got hired, I was pretty skeptical because just hired the former offensive assistant at Clemson and Jeff Scott. We did the same thing with Golesh. How is this going to work? But the one thing was, like I said, he turned around in 1 year, got us into a bowl game. We went to a bowl game every year. But I was still, again, man, this year especially, this would have been the team to win the conference. And that's the one knock is that he could have stayed, and he probably, I think if he does stay, obviously he will, get them to the AAC championship and win it. But obviously him taking the Auburn job, it's a no-brainer. I mean, between the two, obviously Auburn's in a better coaching position. I said personally, I don't know if he's ready for that job yet because when you look at his record against ranked opponents or even ranked, winning record teams in their conference, he only won one game, and that was North Texas. Now, he did beat Boise State. He beat Florida, and he played Bama close more than a lot of other teams could say. But all in all, I mean, there's not, all I can do is tip the cap to him. And, I really am appreciative for reviving what was essentially a dead, program at the time. It was really bad time to be a USF fan. Just getting blown out, and especially his, the last game USF had before him was UCF, where they snuck out a win, then go to the Big 12. So you see your rival beat you again, and they go to the conference you should have been with. You should have been right there with them, and then Golesh comes in and essentially is this team can win. He gave belief that USF could actually win and go to bowl games again. But other than that, I'm with you. There's a couple candidates. The offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator at Alabama was one I was thinking would be a great hire. The wide receivers coach at Georgia, who has a lot of connections to the state of Florida, I think would be a good candidate. But we'll get across that bridge when we build it. But all in all, Golesh, I'm not upset. He made I would have made the same decision, honestly, if I was him too. But it's a good job for him. Hopefully he does well. I still think, like I said, he didn't show enough for me to really take that job. If he took the Florida job too, we'll get to that in a bit. But I would have been saying the same thing. I don't know if he's ready, but he's clearly betting on himself, and he's ready to see if he can prove more people wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Alex Golesh. I think it's the right move for Auburn. I think it's the right move for Golesh because Auburn needs some revitalization. they obviously struggled the last like 6-7 years, and they need a new page. And I think Golish is young enough. He's like a couple months younger, maybe a year younger than me, and he's still young and hungry. His offense is innovative. It's one of the best in the country the last couple of years. Even at Tennessee, like he's done remarkable things the last couple of years. And I feel like, I don't know, like I'm not disappointed. Like this is, again, he brought the USF back to relevancy. Like literally they were ranked in the CFP, and if they had just won out, they would have gone to the CFP. And I think that may have been kind of different if that had happened. If they had beat Navy, maybe he doesn't even take the job. So who knows? But it is a shame, like you said, because like I had them picked losing like 2 of the like 3 non-conference games that they had, and then winning out on their American Conference games, and they did the opposite. They won 2 of 3 of the non-conference games, and then lost 2 conference games. So I don't know. Like it's a wash. Again, like you said, there are options out there. The 2 that I definitely don't want, that I'm going to put this out there right now, definitely don't hire John Gruden. That guy,
Please don't.
He's old. Like, man, he hasn't coached a winning team in like 20 years. Like when he was with Oakland and with the Raiders, Vegas, they were just terrible anyways. And then all that stuff that resurfaced with like his emails, like I just don't want anything to do with him. Like, thank you for winning the Bucs a Super Bowl. Just enjoy your retirement. Don't come near my school. Like, no, thank you. We can do better. There are plenty of offensive coordinators that are out there that are fully capable of taking over a program like USF and doing exactly what Golish did. And that's just what the trajectory is. We have to find coordinators that are up and coming and that are good at their job, and then you make them stay for a couple of years. It just is what it is right now. Until they get the OCS and until they get promoted to a bigger conference, this is just what it is. It's a stepping stone job, and you just got to take advantage of it. And like I said, Rob Higgins and Derek Brooks are best suited to take USF into the next step. So I'm not worried about it. They're great leadership. They'll figure it out. And the other one I don't like, they're mentioning Anthony Becht as a head coach. Like, man, like, no, the guy's never been like a coach of a prominent program or like even FCS level. Like, come on, dude. Like, I know you've been high school level coach, and I think there was like even like a minor league team that he was a coach of. I'm sorry, but like, this isn't the same thing. This is like, college, like a decent level college team. I don't want you to learn on the job. I don't need that. I don't need you to be fired in a year or 2 from now. I want an actual coach that is hungry, that wants to coach this team and to try to win some games, which I feel like if they get a coordinator that is capable, you've got Will Stein at Oregon, who's very capable, great offensive mind. Even there are countless other offensive coordinators out there that are fully capable that could take over the job. I mean, even like the offensive coordinator at Miami, Dawson, like, why not? Like, I would take a shot at him. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, the guy's put up huge numbers the last 2 years. Like, he can't do that at USF. Like, why wouldn't he? Like, I don't know. I think the job's attractive. I think it's definitely something that like, programs, coaches are going to want to take a look at. So we'll see. I mean, we didn't know there was an opening until this morning, so we'll see what happens. Okay, moving on to Florida and John Summerall. And I saw someone say, I'd rather take the ghost of Pat Summerall or the corpse of Pat Summerall over John Summerall. I was like, that's too funny. I don't know what to make of this. I really don't. Like, so much gaslighting of the same thing we saw with Billy Napier. This is, the next best coach. He's gonna make a difference. He's, I don't know. It's okay. So instead of where Napier was like a CEO and innovative and whatever, it's like him is like physical and like defense. He's like a defensive coach instead of offensive minded. But it's like really what he said the most that like is going to be the sticking point and will be the thing that lasts for the next little while is what he said in the press release. And he said that he knows that Florida is known for offense, and he wants an offensive coordinator that is innovative and it has explosive offense. So clearly that is the main focus. Like everyone wants that. But again, last couple of years with Billy, they said the same thing. Oh, we're going to try to get an offensive coordinator. Don't worry, we'll get some money away for offensive coordinator. They never did it. Billy was the calling plays to the very end, and those guys, Ryan O'Hara and Russ Callaway, those guys weren't qualified to call plays at a high-end university like the University of Florida. And you saw what you got the last couple of weeks with their offense. Like I'm almost positive that Billy Gonzalez, we'll talk about the game, but Billy Gonzalez probably just told them, run the ball. I don't even want to see you design a pass play, because they ran the ball like 30 times in the second half against FSU. And like, I think Lagway threw the ball like maybe 5 times, and they almost like, the first drive, they threw it twice, and then Billy Gonzalez is like, yeah, I've had enough. We're just running the ball here from here on out. And they did, and they ran it down their throats, and they couldn't stop them. But no, I just, with this hire, it's like we're all frustrated, and we talked about this before the show. Like it's just, the school has gone through, it went from the 90s and 2000s where it was basically one of the preeminent programs. I think out of the whole country, the three titles, the national titles, was most out of the whole country, and then the SEC titles was like surpassed like everyone. Like it wasn't even close. And so it was like you were the best program in the best conference, and for 2 decades you were dominating stuff. And then in the last 2 decades, it's just fallen apart. And that's what's been frustrating, because it's like, the school has just been, they were lax on facilities for the longest time. They finally got the facilities. Then last little bit with Napier was they couldn't do the recruiting, and then, or with Mullen, and then with Napier coming in, they did the recruiting. And then, then it's like, this guy can't call plays to save his life, and the offense struggles. And then the defense, that honestly has been the biggest problem overall. And I will credit, if John Summerall can fix the defense and make them more of a physical defense and tackling better, and they've been better this year, probably this whole year, except for like the Kentucky game and the Tennessee game. Outside of that, they looked really good all year. They made a lot of plays. They kept them in the game against Ole Miss. They kept them in the game against Georgia. I like the defense. There's a ton of pieces there. John Summerall, I don't know what to make of it. I've been putting out stuff on the Twitter account, and I'm just kind of joking around a little bit, but it's frustrating as fans, because we just want to see a winner. And it seems like the administration, for whatever reason, is not like aligned. I know there were some rumors about like some boosters, and like I'm not going to sit there and slander people, but some boosters were countering what they were doing, and it just made some issues with alignment as far as trying to pick this coach. And it's like, they hired that organization turnkey, and it feels like, I don't know. I guess this is one of the choices that they made. And, it felt like Lane Kiffin was the guy, it felt like all along. And then, Friday, it turns out he's not, and that Florida, the deal fell through or whatever. And there's obviously some misleading accounts on both sides, so we don't actually know what actually happened. But LSU was the winner. LSU got Kiffin. He's there. Kiffin was on the tarmac leaving Mississippi, and they were booing him and flicking him off, which is pretty hilarious. But I don't know. I'm expecting. I don't know what to expect, honestly. I'm frustrated because this feels like we're in a time loop, and this is the same thing that we experienced 4 years ago with Billy Napier. And John Summerall's contract is less than what Billy Napier's would be if Billy Napier stayed. So they're saving money, and I don't know. It's then the one thing that really is kind of the capper today was that the GM hire, which was the old Jacksonville Jaguars GM, who was like his win percentage while he was there in Jacksonville was like 300 or something like that. It was like 30 and like 80 was his record. And I'm just like, man, so we hired this guy that's a bum. Yeah, he's done well with the Eagles, but he's not the main guy, and whatever. He showed when he was the guy that he's not a good GM, yet we decided to hire him. Like, man, it's just baffling some of these choices, and it's frustrating because I just want to see this. I honestly, the only thing I really care about the most is just a good offense. I honestly don't even care about the rest of like all the details. Like, I just want, like, if we can score points, like when Dan Mullen was here, at least like they were scoring points. And the frustrating part was the defense was atrocious. And I guess we do need a competent defense as well, but it's just, I don't know. It's just frustrating. It just seems like I'm going to stop. Ian, go ahead. Tell me some good news.
Yeah. So we'll have an article that I wrote, and this is kind of just be a little tip of that. I want to state this very clearly. I am not blaming John Summerall. I am not mad at John Summerall. I am mad specifically at athletic director Scott Strickland and his decision to hire John Summerall, because we heard from the very beginning, either from the boosters or through Strickland himself, that the main target was a Power 4 coach. No, not even Lane Kiffin. We knew Lane Kiffin was the white whale, but it wasn't just going to, like, and I even said, look, even like we don't get Lane, which was a very real possibility, you can't settle with going back to the well to another like unproven group of 5 coach, because you have guys like Brent Key at Georgia Tech, you had Jed Fish at Washington, you had all these other options. You had Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator that you could have poached and do what Oregon did poaching Dan Lanning. I know we kind of did that with Will Muschamp, and that didn't work out. But the point is, you could not have messed this up. You could not have you could not have botched a coaching cycle again. And he did it twice, because, and I pointed out in the article, let's remember back in 2021. That time, Lincoln Riley was literally stolen in the middle of the night to USC, which blew everybody away. And Lincoln Riley was the hottest commodity coach out there. And USC got him. And USC wasn't really like the high end. It wasn't like the 2000s USC. It was a USC trying to build itself back up. And they got Lincoln Riley. LSU got Brian Kelly, who was the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. Credit, that one blew up in their face, but it was still a much better hire than Florida getting Billy Napier, a guy who had done nothing in any Power 5 program other than being an assistant in Alabama and getting fired at Clemson. And now we have John Summerall, another Louisiana group of 5 coach, who has done nothing in a Power 5 program. And I heard he was a linebacker at Kentucky. He was a graduate assistant in Kentucky. He knows SEC football. Every coach we have hired since Will Muschamp had coaching experience in the SEC. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't.
Because, yeah, you can be an assistant there, but it doesn't mean anything until you are actually in the thick of it as a head coach. It's it is very, very, very frustrating because they could have hired anybody else. And here's the thing, I want to make it clear. Guys like Jed Fish, I wasn't excited for. Brent Key, I would have been a little bit more okay with, but obviously losing out on Kiffin, it was Kiffin or bust. And we didn't get him, but I was thinking you got to do something to make us excited to believe. And you hire another, a guy who we just hope plays over his head. But history has taught me anything with McElwain, with Napier, with now Summerall, it doesn't work at Florida. It won't work. So it is very, very, very frustrating. And I do not know. I seriously wonder if Scott Strickland thinks he's doing a good job. I want to know, out of the last coaching cycle where he hired Billy Napier and this one now, and he better pray to God that those Lincoln Riley rumors are untrue, because if they are true, and that's the thing, I don't want to like you slander or anything, but if it is true that USC insiders were trying to get Lincoln Riley to go to Florida and he turned him away and hired John Summerall, holy cow. I said at the beginning to a lot of people, I said if he doesn't get Lane Kiffin in general, he should be fired. This is a beyond fireable offense. He took too long with Billy Napier, because if he fired Billy Napier last year, we would have Lane Kiffin would be finishing his first season in Florida right now. And he probably wouldn't have been as messy of an exit as it is right now leaving Ole Miss. But again, whatever Scott Strickland has going through his head is not aligning with what the fan base wants, what the boosters want, because we did not want another group of 5 coach who has an unproven track record. I understand he's been to a conference championship every season with Troy and Tulane. Excuse me. There, as we saw with Billy Napier and Jim McElwain, there's a big difference between playing in the Sun Belt, the American, the Mountain West, and playing teams like Georgia, Tennessee, and everybody else in the SEC. It is still the hardest conference in college football. And again, it feels like we're doing the same thing over again. And it's me and a lot of Gator fans are sick of it. We don't want to go through this again. And it looks like we're getting thrown right back into the pit. And it's frustrating when you see all the other rivals are speeding ahead of us and the gap just gets wider and wider. And meanwhile, we're okay with settling with more mediocre hires. But I will say, again, I will hope for the best, but it's really hard to hope against history, because history has taught me this is not going to work. And I said it, I texted, I don't know if I texted you, but I know I posted, I think I commented on Instagram. And if you want to clip this, go ahead. I feel like in 3 years, we're going to be trying to get another head coach, because it seems like the same thing with Napier. And hopefully at that point, we'll have somebody in charge who actually knows what Florida football needs and wants.
Yeah, I know. And that's like the whole like crux of the argument here is the fact that, one, there's no president at the University of Florida right now. So there's an interim, but there's no, tenured president that will be there for an X amount of years. So Florida's been dealing with that. Then you have Scott Strickland, who's gone through now his 3rd coaching hiring. And at this point, we're just kind of like riding out the clock until he leaves. And there's like nothing we can do. Like, we're just stuck with this AD that continues to just underwhelm us with hirings. And like, I will say though, the Billy Napier hire was kind of the right move at the time. Like, as much as like we're looking back now and like, oh, whatever, like it was the right move to go after Billy Napier. He was, a conference champion. He was doing well at Louisiana, and he was recruiting well in that conference as well. So it was like he had a history of recruiting well at Alabama. So it's like he can recruit. Hopefully he can bring that to Florida, and let's keep this momentum going and like build what, Dan Mullen had failed to do. His offenses were like somewhat okay to like, I don't know. It's rough because I guess probably should have taken a look better at his his offenses at the time, but it doesn't matter. He's gone. But then now you have Summerall, which is a very similar profile. His like record is like dead similar. It's like 1 game difference from the two from Summerall and Napier. He did win 2 conference championships at Troy. He's has a chance for a third here with Tulane going up against North Texas. And the thing I saw is he's going to coach the conference championship game, which I'm not a fan of, but whatever, is what it is. I would like to see him get on the road to recruiting right now because we're not going to get this recruiting class at all. Like, we have 3 days, and I would hope that they can figure this stuff out. But I don't know. It's just frustrating, man. It's just so dang, like, we've just been in this like rat race of the same thing over and over again. G5 coach after G5. And really it was like outside of Mullen was the only one that was any different. And that was happened to be because he had ties to the university. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't see why Florida cannot get a good coach to come to Gainesville. I don't see why. I don't see why. Like, it's a top tier program. The academics are top tier. Over the last 35 years, there are very few schools with over 3 championships. Not even Georgia, not even Clemson come to mind, not Auburn, not even Ohio State. It's barely Ohio State and LSU. So it's like Ohio State, LSU, Florida State, and Alabama. And that's really it. So there's like 4 schools with that many amount of championships. And it's like, I don't get why we have to be second-class citizens on these coaching hires. I don't know why it's been like this. It feels like it's just frustrating because it's like, I don't know. I'm going to keep saying it. And I'm going to stop saying it because it's just repetitive. But I don't know. You got any more to add before we move on? I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Wait, you had it. Go back. There it is.
There we go.
Yeah, you're good.
No, last thing I'll say, I'll see you in 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I feel like. It's like I saw someone from a Kentucky fan because they're obviously like they were dead set on getting Summerall at some point, and they were like complaining like, that they missed their shot at getting him. And I was like, look, man, you probably got a shot in 3 years for getting him. So like,
cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's just sad. It's just really sad. Do you have any thoughts on Lane before we move into the games?
I remember him getting mad at the columnist who said I don't know if we're allowed to say it. Are we allowed to say what at him holding up Ole Miss for ransom, literally threatening to poach players and the staff and telling the staff if you are not on the plane, you are not getting a job at LSU, and totally threatening to completely gut and derail Ole Miss's season. And him literally, he was the most beloved figure in Oxford, and leaving to a chorus of boos and middle fingers. I went, that's the Lane I know and love. That's the one I remember at Tennessee and USC. So it was good to have a throwback. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm upset we couldn't get him, but I mean, hindsight being what it was, if we did get him and it was going to be this messy,
Yeah, I mean, Lane.
I still would have preferred Lane, but anyways.
Yeah, I would have preferred Lane too. But it's like, honestly, now it's like looking back at it, it's like it does look like it might be a bit of a crap show going into this LSU tenure. Like you said, history repeats itself. And like, if you look at it with Lane, he flamed out at Oakland, flamed out at Tennessee, flamed out at USC, did well at FAU, and then was doing well at Ole Miss, but kind of like left on bad terms. So honestly, the only real thing that's going to happen is if he does well at LSU, which is definitely a high possibility, he ends up leaving and goes to Alabama when DeBoer leaves, which seems like a likelihood with all the rumors out there about him. So He would take the Alabama job. He wants that job. He's been wanting it.
Yeah.
He wanted it when it went open when Saban left. So maybe when he goes to LSU and he has the right seasoning, Alabama will take him. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, Lane, a great offensive mind, but he's a guy that just, I don't know, just hasn't really like grown up as a human being. Even in this, it was very messy. And, he's just, I don't know, the media tries to like paint these pictures with these people like they're like grown-ups and they're doing, forward-thinking things, but they're very messy with a lot of the things that they do. And, it was, I don't know. I'm not going to say that he's a terrible human being, but I'm just going to say he definitely has some laundry that, the Ole Miss fans are airing right now. And, I'm not going to go into that because whatever, but it is out there. And, but again, I'm not upset that he's at LSU. LSU got the rights to him. They were, they had the money, they had the alignment, even though their governor clearly is meddling and whatever. And it felt like it was going to be difficult for everything for the stars to align for them, but they pulled it out and they got him. I don't know what to make to like, because it seems like he should do well there, but then at the same time, I thought maybe Brian Kelly was going to do well at LSU. He like somewhat did all right. I mean, he had like 9-10 win seasons, but just couldn't get over the hump. Is that going to be the same thing with Lane? Because he's been like last couple of years, like basically like a 10-win team. He finally now gets a 11-win team and he runs. I don't know. I mean, I feel like they'll do well, but again, he could flame out easily as well. It's kind of like 50-50 at this point, what the actual like tenure of Lane at LSU is going to be like. Okay, let's get into these games.
Yeah.
We spent like, God, that was 38 minutes. Wow. We're going to go quick through this because I got somewhere to be in a little bit. So Navy, Memphis, Navy kind of ran away with it, 28-17. Navy's offense does what they do. They like to run the ball very well, use that, set up the passes to Heidenreich. He gets open a couple of times. Horvath looked really good in this game. Tezca, I don't even know how you say his name, TCZA. He's a good running back for them, puts up a decent amount. 103 yards. Brendan Lewis had a decent first half, and Memphis was up in this game, and then Navy just kind of takes over. You got any thoughts on this one?
No, Navy just played a Navy-type game. They played keep away. They knew Memphis's offense was as dangerous as it was, but they knew keeping the ball away, as Navy does with these teams, if you can't have the ball long enough, you're not going to be able to score, and they did. Memphis kept it close, but Navy found a way to win, which they usually do.
Okay. 1 second. Then we got Egg Bowl, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. This was on Friday. It was close at first, and then Ole Miss just kind of took it to them. It was 14-10 in the second quarter, and then Ole Miss ends up winning 38-19. Chambliss had a great game, man. He had some dimes. Did you see some of those passes?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Ooh, man, the kid is, for a kid that was at Ferris State last year, a Division II school, to come to the SEC and to do this on SEC defense is really amazing. And he put up huge numbers. And what do you have? 359 and 4 TDs. Lacey had 143. Yeah, it was a great game by him. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, at least Kiffin goes out a winner. Mississippi State, with most of these rivalry games, they played it close at the beginning, but Ole Miss just had the better team. It was fun to see, them get at each other and have a fight. But Chambliss, absolutely went off, and with the compliment of Lacey at running back, there was nothing Mississippi State could do really towards the end.
Okay, next one we got Utah, Kansas. This game was close, like at first, and it was like I thought Kansas actually was going to take it because it was 14-10 into the fourth quarter. And then Utah explodes in the fourth quarter with 21 straight points. Well, not 21 straight. They outscored them 21-7 in the fourth. But no, it was the play of the game was that interception where Kansas is going to try to score. They're on the, inside the 10. Daniels goes back to pass, intercepted at the 3-yard line, and he runs it all the way back for a pick six. And that was enough for a 10-point lead. Daniels does score another touchdown for Kansas, but then Dampier scores late there, and it's 31-21. So Utah gets the win, 10-win season. Their only 2 losses are to 1 loss Texas Tech and 1 loss BYU. So tremendous year for them. They're not going to go to the playoff, which is a shame because I'd actually like to see them play against some of these other teams. But good go by them. They played well all year. And if they just beat BYU, they're playing for the Big 12 championship and have a shot at the playoffs. So it's a shame. But any thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, this game was definitely getting down to the wire, but that fourth quarter was huge. And that defense of Utah really came in, saved the day again. They got those 3 picks off Daniels, and those turnovers really were the difference maker. But Utah, yeah, great season, 10-2. That, I mean, like I said at the beginning, that BYU game is going to haunt them. But they end the season with double-digit wins. They'll go to a good bowl game. And, there is an argument for them because at 13 they could realistically fall up into a playoff spot, but there's going to be a lot of help needed for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the realistic thing would be the loser of the Big 12 champion has a better shot of going to the playoff more than them because they will have played in the conference championship game while Utah did not. And so I just don't see it. Like, I think because they had to get to the conference championship to have a shot, and I just don't think it would that. Okay, Georgia Tech, clean old-fashioned hate. This game was even to the very last play. It was a Hail Mary at the end.
Yeah.
It was back and forth. Georgia kind of set the pace in the second quarter with that touchdown to Zachariah Branch, and the rest of it was just field goals. So, Georgia Tech gave it all. They really couldn't do anything in the passing game, but either did Georgia. It was kind of just a run-first game between the two teams, but Georgia Tech couldn't even run the ball. So credit to Georgia's defense. I'm surprised that they really stunned Georgia Tech as well as they did. I know you were talking about their defense. I just felt like Georgia's defense was struggling in a couple of these games, especially against better offenses, the Alabama game, the Ole Miss game. So I felt like that was going to continue in this game, the Tennessee game. But Georgia Tech just could not get it going. Georgia did enough on the ground to really get first downs and make a difference. Your thoughts on clean old-fashioned hate?
Yeah, this game, I mean, what I thought Georgia would find a way to win. The offense wasn't playing particularly well. Stockton didn't really have that good of a game. I think he only had like 70 yards total because that defense literally was telling us, okay, nobody is like, we're focusing on the run game. Stockton's going to have to beat us with his arm, and Georgia still relied on the run game. But Georgia, they just had the better athletes in the end, and Tech did everything they could. But again, field goals don't win you football games, touchdowns do, and that was the difference. Georgia had the one touchdown, and Tech didn't, and it came down to the Hail Mary. But again, Tech played them close, played them tough. They're getting closer, but Georgia found a way to win in the end, as they've done all season.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. North Texas Temple. Not going to spend too much time on this one. Mestamaker had a good game. Hawkins had another good game, 4 TDs, 186 yards. You have any thoughts on this one?
Not just, I mean, North Texas, even with Morris leaving, going to the AAC championship, Messmaker had another good game. They took care of business and they got the job done.
Yeah, it's just a shame because South Florida blew out this team.
I know.
And all they had to do was beat Navy, and they would be in their place. And they just couldn't beat Navy. They'd beat Navy or Memphis, either one. They just had to win one of those games. And between those 3 games, North Texas, Navy, and Memphis, they went 1-2. Whereas the Florida, Boise State, and Miami games, they went 2-1. I never would have thought that would have been the case coming into the year. I thought it would have been easily the reverse. Maybe even go 3-0 with the conference foes. But okay, moving on. Arizona State. I didn't even watch the highlights of this just because both these teams got eliminated from kind of any possibility of anything. You have any thoughts on this 23-7? Did you see this at all?
I mean, it was a good game. Arizona, got revenge on Sparky, but yeah, again, another game that I kind of expected. Arizona got the job done. They were the better team. Fafita had a good game. He had almost 300 yards passing, and they really relied on they had the better passing game because the run games were non-existent, but especially Arizona State, there was no run game to speak of, and Arizona's had the bigger plays, and they get the win.
Yeah, with Jeff Sims, they're very limited. Sam Levitt brings another level to that Arizona State team, so it's a shame he's been hurt. He's out the rest of the year, so it would have been nice to see him there, but he was out. So, oh well. 8-4, still not a bad year for Arizona State. Dillingham seems to be on the verge of getting a big job, but I don't know. I mean, that's where he's an alumni from. So, I don't know why he would leave when that's where he went to school. Most guys, want to stay at the schools that they went to school. So, we'll see. Okay, another blowout. Texas Tech, 49-0 to West Virginia. You have any thoughts on this one? This is pretty typical Texas Tech blowout. Defense does great. Offense dominates big plays. Morton, great game. Dickey, great game. Caleb Douglas. What do you got?
I mean, Texas Tech Death Star blows up another planet. I mean, they did what we expected. They just destroyed another team that they were better than.
Okay, next one. This one was actually interesting because it was kind of a slow-paced game. Pitt took a 7-3 lead, and then Miami outscored them 35-0 the rest of the way. Tony, again, had a huge game, a TD receiving and a TD passing. Pringle seems to be coming on for them running back-wise. Beck had another bad interception, but, a good game besides that, 23 of 29. Heinzel was running for his life, Miami's defense, which I honestly thought was going to be the case because the way to beat Pitt was shown by Notre Dame. So I'm sure Miami just took that game plan just because they have the same, they have better D-line pressure. And so they were able just to implement the same plan. And, yeah, Pitt didn't do really much at all after the second half. They moved the ball a little bit, but they just could never really score. And Miami dominates 38-7. Get another late score, which, okay, yeah, is what it is. I mean, they're just trying to, put up style points, hoping that they get in the playoff. I mean, they have a shot, but it's going to be close. I mean, we won't know until we see after these conference championship games because there could be some movement there. But your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, with this one, it kind of went what we was hoping. Miami was hoping it would. The cold weather really didn't affect them, especially once I think they started running around later in the game. Pitt, Heischer was running for his life, and the defense really showed up. If the defense did its job, Miami was going to win this game, and they did a good job prioritizing throwing to Tony, and really only Tony. He had 13 receptions and had a great game. It's one of those things where you go to the well until they tell you to stop, and Pitt was not able to cover Tony at all. So that's why Beck was definitely looking better even with the interception, and they went to more high percentage passing plays. But Miami was the better team, had the better athletes, and they escaped Pittsburgh with the win.
Okay, next one we've got is Ohio State, Michigan, the game. Michigan takes a 6-0 lead, and Julian Sand throws that early pick, and Michigan's in business. But then, honestly, the rest of the way, Ohio State dominated. They outscored them 27-3 from that point on. Underwood, just underwhelming. I haven't been impressed with him all year, and he didn't do anything here. Ohio State's defense was stifling. Michigan couldn't even run the ball that well. Only 100 yards on the ground and 63 through the air as well. Offensively, Colonel Tate had a huge explosive play. Bo Jackson was getting off huge runs. Bo Jackson had a couple passing plays as well, or in the passing game. And yeah, outside of that interception by Sayin, he looked really good. So it's really only that one pass. The rest of the way, he was like 19 of 25 for 233 and 3 TDs. So Ohio State, the best team they played all year was probably this Michigan team. Maybe that Texas team. I don't know. That Texas team early on was kind of weak. They've gotten better, this Texas team. But this Michigan team right now was probably the best team they've played all year when they were clicking and like beating teams. And Ohio State beat them pretty handedly. I did have some jerk Ohio State fan trying to like counter my analysis with saying about, oh, they only scored 24 points or something. I said my analysis from the prep was that I didn't think Michigan was going to score more than 24 points and that Ohio State didn't have to worry about that. And I knew they would because they'd probably score something around 27 points. So even at Michigan's ceiling of scoring 24 points, they still were not going to win. That was my analysis, you moron. And I just want to call that guy out for countering me because as soon as the game was over, he comes to TikTok and comments, "No, they didn't score." I'm like, dude, get over yourself, you dork. But your thoughts on this game?
No, Ohio State, they knew the game plan very early on. It was that Underwood is going to have to beat us with his arm, and they didn't. They did a very good job with the spy packages and making sure the middle run lane was not taking, they weren't being beaten up the middle like they were last year. The big thing was that Michigan had all the momentum that first quarter, especially after that interception, and they were inside the 10, and both times had to settle for field goals, and that really hurt them because if they get a touchdown there, it's a completely different game. 13-0 and 6-0 are two totally different ball games right there. And Michigan really lost momentum after not capitalizing there. And yeah, again, another example where field goals won't win you games. They had to be more aggressive because they knew this, Ohio State team, how talented it is. And they did not, they finally went, to the well with Jeremiah Smith, Tate, and those guys. They knew how talented they are throwing to the outside, and they, took advantage of it. And yeah, saying other than that pick had a good game. Bo Jackson had a good time running to the outside. But Ohio State gets their win. They can reset the clock and, finally gets the monkey off their back and beats Michigan.
Okay, next game we've got is UCF BYU. UCF took a 14-0 lead in this game, and BYU just couldn't stop them. But I will say this team does what it does and gets turnovers, forces turnovers by UCF, and then Kingston gets a punt return for a touchdown, and LJ Martin runs the ball extremely well. And this team, again, is a three-phase team. Special teams, defense, offense. Bear Bachmeier is not the most talented guy, but he's very effective. He's a better passer than Retzlaff was, and he runs the ball extremely well as well. And this team, I'm telling you what, man, I don't think anybody wants to play them in the playoff. I know that they're going to have a tough go with Texas Tech, and may be the deciding factor. At this point, it seems likely that BYU is not going to get in unless they have they play Texas Tech as evenly as possible or even beat them. That seems about their only likely chance. And that's kind of ridiculous considering their only loss is to Texas Tech and their only second loss may to be to Texas Tech as well. So I feel like they deserve to be in the playoff. I've been promoting them on our Twitter account a ton. I like and retweet almost every one of those tweets that people are putting out about BYU. I have been a huge supporter of theirs since last year. I like the football that they play. I think their coach is a well disciplined football that the coach likes to practice. And the defense is very stout. The special teams, like I said, Kingston makes plays left and right. You have two great receivers with Kingston and Roberts. LJ Martin is a stud running back. Bear Bachmeier is a great quarterback, a good quarterback, not a great one. He's good. He's only a freshman. And then, the tight ends are really good. Ryan is a really good tight end. It's a team that, for whatever reason, BYU does not get any hype at all. People are not even talking about them, which I don't get. They're an 11-1 team. They have a better record than Miami, better record than Alabama, better record than Vanderbilt. Yet for some reason, we are not talking about this team. I know that ESPN is, trying to promote all these SEC teams, and I get it. But at the same time, it's like this BYU team deserves its flowers. Their only loss right now is to Texas Tech, and I feel like they need to be getting hype. They need to be getting the praise that, like, Indiana was getting last year. Like Indiana was getting a ton of hype, even though they only played two teams last year and they got smoked in those games. You know what? BYU got smoked in one of those games, and the rest of their other games, they beat really good opponents all year. So I feel like they deserve it, and they're just not getting the praise. But Ian, your thoughts?
No, I totally agree with BYU, especially with how well they played. 11-1 is insane. But it is definitely note in this one how they were able to kind of stare, UCF was looking for the upstate. They needed the win to go into a bowl game and, make their first bowl game appearance in a while. And BYU just came storming back. And that's the thing with especially the offense, too. There's a million different ways they can beat you, which is what makes BYU so dangerous. Obviously, with Bachmeier on his legs, you got Martin who can, carry the ball. And you got guys like Kingston who can, if they need to pass it. Bachmeier was, I think, like 21 for 24 or something. He was deadly accurate. And the defense was able to, get the stops when they needed, only giving up, after the first quarter, only giving up 7 more points. So they got the job done after that first quarter. And they did not, they didn't panic. They didn't reel. Shows how well disciplined and how well coached they are. But BYU gets the win, and now they're off to the Big 12 championship.
Okay, moving on. We're going to go through these relatively quickly here. Oregon, Washington. Oregon wins pretty big, 26-14. Gets the win in the rivalry that we don't know the name of it. Dante Moore has a good game.
I don't know.
yeah, it doesn't matter. Demond, 2 interceptions. Oregon basically locks themselves into a playoff spot. Not going to the Big Ten championship game, but going to the playoff, possibly a first round home playoff game. So that's good for them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Oregon, Washington obviously eyeing the upset, and they were playing up to it. But the second half, Oregon is just showing that they could really be a good second half team. And, once they get those halftime adjustments, feel out the opponent, they'll just shut them down. And that's exactly what they did to the Huskies. They got enough distance to where they could, kind of cruise control into the fourth quarter. And, yeah, they did a, good job putting them away.
Okay. Next one we've got is Oklahoma, LSU. What a miracle that Oklahoma won this game.
Yeah.
Because their offense was struggling so much. Mateer had 3 interceptions, a couple on tip balls. So not necessarily his fault, but just the offense could not get going. But again, the defense, this is why, okay, people are like, oh, I don't like this team because their offense, whatever. This defense is a championship level defense. I'm sorry, but the Bucks teams of the late 90s were defense primarily, and they barely scored any points, but they were good enough to get to the NFC Championship game in 99, and that tells you something. It's like, yes, the offense is not that great, but their defense is top tier. They make plays. They held LSU in check almost the entire game. And if it weren't for those turnovers, it gave LSU a lot of short fields as well. So LSU would have had it would have probably been a 13 or 17-3 game if Oklahoma doesn't give them all those short fields. And, I'm telling you, like, I know people like have this fascination with like, and I'm the same way. I love offense and I love scoring, especially for the Florida Gators. But again, I'm a fan of like the Bucks, where like if you have a top tier defense, like it still kind of like transcends whatever the offense can do, because those defenses are just tough and gritty, and they make plays. And this is one of those defenses. The D line is tremendous, and I'm just telling you right now, if they get into the playoffs, they are very dangerous. They are a team that can stop the other team's offense dead in their tracks. They did it against Alabama. They did it against Tennessee. They can do it against really good teams, and I feel like they have a shot to go on to make some damage in this playoff. We will see if they get in. Again, with this 2 losses, I know I just made the argument for BYU. I feel like their resume speaks for itself. It really does. And like, I don't know. Like, it's going to be close because you've got Miami with 2 losses. You've got Oklahoma with 2 losses, Vanderbilt with 2 losses, Alabama with 2 losses. And Alabama, I don't know what's going to happen, because if they lose that game to Georgia, does that mean they're out? I don't know. The precedent was set last year that teams that got to the conference championship games got in. So we'll see. I don't know. Your thoughts on this one, Ian?
Yeah, and I saw a post that said if we could allow a defense into the playoff, this would be the one. Oklahoma has the best defense in the SEC and one of the best in the country. So the defense is in. The offense I would not put in the top 12, to be honest. But that might be enough to drag them in, because the defense has done its job this season. Like, out of all the games Oklahoma has played, almost like none of them was at the fault of the defense. They were in all of their games. Their 2 losses to Texas and Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss scored 34, but I mean, they were in that game. And that Texas game too, they held Texas to 23 points, and their only touchdowns were off, an interception off good field position and punt return. I was at that game. I could tell you how good that defense was and how Manning was not getting any progress on the ground or through the air. But Oklahoma, I honestly think, I think they should be in based solely on how good the defense has been, because they've just done a great job shutting these teams down. But that, again, with 3 interceptions, they're lucky to have a defense like that, and especially to play an LSU team that is just, just so glad the season's over.
Okay, next one we've got is Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Pavia goes off, definitely probably cemented himself going to New York with the huge game. He had 165 yards on the ground, 2 total TDs, 268 passing yards. He did have the 2 picks early that kind of like helped out Tennessee a bunch. Brazel had a good game for Tennessee. Aguilar had a decent game. Bishop had 2 TDs. But, the Vanderbilt run game just came to play. Alexander had 115 on the ground as well. This Vanderbilt team, 10 wins. I think it's the first time ever in the history of their program. Shout out to them. Shout out to Clark Lee for a huge year for them. The guy was not joking when he said they were going to play for championships, and they literally have a shot of getting into the playoff. What was it, like 4 years? Right? He started around Billy, right? Yeah. Like 4 years, went from like a terrible record to 10-2. Just tremendous by his part. Your thoughts, Ian?
If you were to tell me 3 years ago that, hey, when Tennessee and Vandy end the year, one of them will be 10-2 and the other will be 8-4 with a 500 record in the SEC, I still would have been like, oh, good for Vandy. 8 wins is pretty good. Yeah. That's insane that they are 10-2 and their only 2 losses are to Alabama and Texas. And they blew the doors off Tennessee at Rocky Top, and a good Tennessee team. Not great, but good. They were hanging in there with Georgia and Bama. But, yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt it's insane to say, yes, they are the best team in Tennessee right now, and it's not even close. Because even in the years where Tennessee was down, They were the best team, or even Memphis was like one of the best teams in the late 2010s when Tennessee was down. Vandy was never in that discussion, but now they are, and they are clearly the best team in the state. And this just, goes to show. And I wouldn't be surprised again if there was still conversations about them, sneaking in to the playoff.
Okay, let's move on. We're gonna hurry up here. The beatdown in the swamp. Florida State. I will say I did feel pretty happy last night after the win. Like it's been such a terrible run this year. So to see the joy of Jaden Baugh just going off. Jaden, man, you give us all Gator fans tremendous joy, and you are such a great athlete. And from all of us in the Florida Gator faithful, we really enjoyed these last 2 years of your play, and just tremendous effort. The kid just does not go down. He runs hard every play. It's just a joy to watch. It really is. He's one of the best running backs I've ever seen Florida have, and he just has it. Like whatever it is as a running back, he has it. He has the size, he has the speed, he has the juking ability, he has, he can catch balls out of the backfield. Like, dude, he's got to be RB1 in SEC next year if he stays at Florida, and I hope he does. I think even with an offense, whatever that John Summerall puts up next year, it's going to be a kind of a run offense anyway. So like you would hope that he comes back and tries to make the most of it. He only has to do, next year, and then he's going for the draft. And like, man, shout out to Jaden, just huge game, 266 yards, the most ever in a FSU game for a Florida player, and the second most ever for a Florida player outside of Emmitt Smith's like 300 something or whatever. Just, man, it was such a joy. And like, it ran the ball 38 times to him. And it was just like,
fix it.
We've been wanting this all year. We're like, just all we have to do is run the ball. Just run the ball, and no one can stop us. And that's what they did. And they just road graded them. Florida State's defense couldn't do anything. Every third and short, it was like first down. It was the Wildcat, like literally everything. It was, and DJ Lagway, didn't have a terrible game, but he didn't throw the ball a ton. He did have that one pick, which again, he can't seem to throw a hitch, which is amazing that he can't throw that pass. But he did have 3 TDs, and just the defense played extremely well, got a bunch of turnovers on downs. That one stop on Castellanos was huge. Basically, it was the turning point in the game. Man, I don't know. It just was such a great win to beat Florida State, to prevent them from getting bowl eligibility. Yeah. And, even at 4 losses, we've said this before, if like the only win of the year is beating Florida State, it really does make a difference the rest of the year. It's so ridiculous. It's like, it doesn't even
that's what college football and rivalries are all about, man.
It really doesn't make any sense. It's like, I hated this year so much, but because Florida was able to win that game, I'm like, you know what? It was kind of worth it.
I was going to say too, I mean, I texted this to everybody after the game. This doesn't save the season. It especially doesn't make me feel better about where the program is going. But damn, does it feel good to beat Florida State. And honestly, out of all of the losing seasons, this one kind of felt the best because we beat Florida when we went 4-8 in 2013, 4-7 in 2017, and then 7-6 or 6-7 under Napier and all those years.
Yeah.
All the losing seasons never beat Florida State. And we beat them this year. Man, did that feel good. And to prevent them from going to a bowl game. That being said, I mentioned this. We need to have a come to Jesus moment with Mike Norvell. I know Florida State fans have had it already, and I know they had the dreaded vote of confidence, but they really should have saved that to the end of the year because he is the first coach in Florida State history to lose to 3 different Gator head coaches now. Because he lost to 2 interim head coaches and Billy Napier. And losing to 2 interim coaches is unacceptable, especially to a Florida team that is this bad. They got blown out by Kentucky. They were dead in the water, but somehow seeing that spear helmet, I said that. I've been in the game. Something about seeing Florida State in the swamp, that crowd, that team is out for blood. So that was what I was hoping against Tennessee would happen, and I guess they just waited till Florida State because the hate was real. Even when both of these teams are having god-awful seasons, there was at least 3 fights, which, as predicted. But for Florida State, I mean, dude, again, you lost to 3-8 Florida, and you're not going to another bowl game where this was as easy. Like, this was the layup win against the Gators, and you couldn't get it done. There needs to be a serious discussion, even after the whole vote of confidence. Where is this program going? Because you can't lose to Florida, who is 3-8, dead in the water, and is like just have their teeth kicked in by Tennessee and Kentucky, and go out and get like Florida State was barely in this game. You got run over in it. So that was all I was going to say, at least with that there needs to be a serious discussion with Norvell's future. I know they already are having that, but that was his most embarrassing loss at Florida State. And I know he's had a lot. Jacksonville State was, the D2 Hail Mary game. But this wasn't to a rival, and that wasn't against a rival, and that wasn't for a bowl game.
Okay, you got any more thoughts before we move on?
Damn, it feels good to beat Florida State.
Yes. All right. Last couple of ones we got, and we'll call it a show. Virginia Tech. Virginia wins 27-20. Virginia Tech gets a late kind of, lame touchdown to break the shutout, but Virginia dominated in this game. They're going to the ACC championship game. Good on them. Tremendous year. And I saw someone say that NC State non-conference game really kind of foiled like everything. Yeah. And it really did. It's kind of hilarious. It's like the most ridiculous thing that college football could ever come up with. And it's still so like putting a wrench in the gears of all the things that happened. So now we have we'll talk about the next thing, but Virginia wins, going to the ACC championship game. Morris had a great game. Taylor had a really good game. And, just Virginia actually played really good defense. This Va-Tech team just kind of, it was at the end of they had fired their coach. They got Franklin, so they've got better days coming, but, just a tough year for them. Your thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, Virginia took care of business. They finally get, the win over Va-Tech. And, I know that has got to feel good because Va-Tech, like I mentioned in the preview, was owning them. But now the tides have shifted. Obviously, Franklin's going to make this more interesting for next season. But Virginia, they're on their way to the ACC championship.
Okay, next one we'll do it real quick. USF, Rice. The only thing I really want to mention out of this, yes, they perfect record on the year at home, which is great. But the best thing that happened out of this game was Byron Brown, 3,000 passing yards, 1,000 rushing yards. Only the 12th time ever that a quarterback has ever done that in FBS. Just tremendous. I've been such a huge fan of Byram since the very beginning. When he started that game 4 years ago against Tulsa, and the Jeff Scott era was ending, and I think he went 16 or 17 straight passes without an incompletion, and I just knew, I was like, oh man, this kid's he's got it. And I've been such a huge fan of his. Byram, thank you for everything you've done for the school. You've gone out a winner at the school. You've had, some amazing records. And, whatever happens, if you leave, go to the draft, go to another team, whatever, you'll always be welcome in Tampa, in the Tampa Bay area. We'll always be huge fans of yours. And thank you for everything. But your thoughts on this game?
Golish goes out and winner. Brown possibly goes out and winner. It was a perfect bookend. Blowout win. They finish undefeated at home. They, will have a chance at a 10-win season. Again, it's incredible to see the program. My only thing that I wanted to mention, God, those helmets sucked. I did not like those helmets.
I knew you were not going
to. Again, I'm the only one who cares, but I was like, it reminded me of the Jaguars helmets in the 2010s. I'm like, dude, just pick a color. White, black, pick one. other than that, great win for USF and way to end the season strong.
Okay. Last couple ones. Iron Bowl. Alabama wins 27-20. Alabama, man, I'm telling you, man, like, it's funny. It's like this team found a way to win this game because Auburn seemed to be like, they were down 17-0, and then they were getting back in this game, and they were making enough plays to like chip away at the lead. They tied the game, and then Alabama goes up late, and then Auburn is driving with a chance to tie it, and Coleman fumbles it, and it's just like, oh man, and it was right there for Auburn. But no, this Alabama team just finds ways to win. They've been in a lot of one-score games all year long. This Auburn team is not trash. They've got a really good defense, and there are a ton of playmakers on offense. They just have struggled with their quarterback play, and with Golish coming in, maybe that changes. So maybe they'll get better quarterback play. We'll see. Your thoughts on this one, Ian?
I mean, dude, something about that stadium and that hex they have. Again, this is another game where Bama won by one possession and got lucky because Auburn doubled them in total yardage. But those two turnovers came up huge, especially that fumble at the end. Better to be lucky than good. I think that's the definition of Alabama winning a Jordan Hare. But for Auburn, I mean, again, they play Bama close, and for Bama, this has got to be a learning lesson because this is another game you kind of escaped in. But they get the win regardless. They're, primed and ready to, jump into the playoff now, and, they'll play the SEC championship against Georgia. But yeah, I'm not thinking they were feeling, especially with how well they started, ending it that way. I'm sure left them on a sour note.
Okay, let's move on. USC, UCLA. USC gets the win. It was closer into the fourth. It was like a 14-10 game. And then USC scores 2 touchdowns late, wins 29-10. UCLA finally ends their season mercifully. We'll see what happens with Nico, if he stays or if he goes. USC, 9-win season. They just really honestly needed to beat Oregon last week, and they would have had a shot at the playoff. So now they're out of it. King Miller, walk-on extraordinaire, another huge game, 124 yards, 2 TDs. He had a late one for like 40-plus. Jacoby Lane had a good game. Lemon had a good game. And, just it's a shame because this team had higher goals, USC, and they just couldn't get it done. But your thoughts before we move on.
Yeah, and USC, again, second half, fourth quarter especially, defense stepped up, made sure that, UCLA, it was either, Emaliava or nothing for UCLA, and they targeted him. The run game was not there. Miller was able to, complement Maiava. That was the difference, was that there was, more balanced attack from USC, and they could, especially in the fourth quarter, if you have the running game working, wearing out the defense, you can just break their will, and that's exactly what happened. UCLA mercifully, like you said, season ends. They don't go winless. That's what a lot of people were fearing, including me. I thought there was a very likelihood they would not win a game this year. But they got, 3 wins, and obviously losing to your rival in USC stings. But for USC, I mean, they'll definitely take the win over UCLA any day of the week.
Yeah, and it looks like UCLA might get the James Madison coach, which, I mean, he looks like a good coach, so maybe it might be brighter days in Westwood for the Bruins. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating because, with Foster the last 2 years, he just obviously was in over his head. And, I don't know. I'd like to see Neuheisel stay on staff if he can. The kid obviously loves UCLA, and he wants to be here. So let's move on. Last 2. Let's round it out. SMU, Cal. Man, SMU had the lead late, and then Cal scores with like a minute left. Just, JKS, I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to butcher it. Yeah. JKS had a huge game, 4 TDs. Jennings had a pretty good game. It just was back and forth, and SMU just could not score at the end there, and just tremendous win for Cal. SMU had everything riding on that game. They had a shot at the ACC championship game, maybe potentially getting in the playoff, and they just lose at the last second. Who knew that 2 years ago you would say SMU and Cal would play in a game that SMU needed to get into the playoff, like for the second year in a row? Just tremendous. Because I remember that lawsuit that Florida State had 2 years ago, and they were saying how they how, oh God, SMU, like the terrible, and SMU has literally done like everything
more than Florida State.
And then Florida State has won like basically 7 games since that point. Pretty remarkable. But your thoughts, and we'll finish this last one.
Man, you want to talk about heartbreaking? All SMU had to do was win this game, and Cal just made sure, like, nah, we're going to ruin your season, man. But SMU, any chance they had at the playoff is now gone, and especially the ACC championship. And not only did you mention saying this a few years ago, Cal and SMU will decide who will go to the ACC championship, and because of this, Duke is going to the ACC championship against Virginia.
7-5 Duke.
7-5 Duke will be playing Virginia in the ACC championship because Cal beat SMU. Tell me that before COVID, and I would want to be like, dude, those drugs they have after this, pandemic is nuts. But all in all, Cal, Cardiac Cal finds a way to win, and SMU, man, I understand this is a successful season, but you got to feel this one. They choked it away, and they had, the win and the chance to go to the ACC championship again, and they just flat out let it slip through their fingers.
Okay, last game we've got is Notre Dame Stanford. The late game, it was on super late. I didn't even stay up for this. But Notre Dame wins 49-20. CJ Carr had an okay game. Jeremiah Love, I think, got hurt a little bit in this one and was not in the game a ton. I did have a touchdown. Aeneas Williams came in, scored twice, had 83 yards. So it didn't matter. A mullet. It's not a mullet, bro. I got long hair. It's not a mullet is when it's short up front. This is all long hair, my friend. And then what is it? Stanford just overmatched. They were 4-8. Oh, these are those same friends of ours. Well, guess what, friends? We're not going to be on very long, so you missed your time. Notre Dame gets the win. Pretty easy win, 49-20. I don't know if it does enough to give them enough boost in the CFP talk, but your thoughts on this, and then we'll call it a show.
No, Notre Dame took care of business like all these teams did. Stanford was clearly outmatched, and even without Love, they did a great job and just sticking to their game plan, doing a good job with Carr, and at least it was high percentage pass plays. And Stanford was just clearly outnumbered, outmatched, and they didn't have really much of a chance, especially when Notre Dame was doing everything they could to make sure Stanford was not staying in this game. So Notre Dame played a Notre Dame game, and Stanford fell right into it, and they get the expected win.
Nice. Okay, that is the show. Ian's going to have that article probably tomorrow morning. I'll post it. I got to go through it tonight. And then, so check it out on haterradio.com. For all of our socials, just type in Hater Radio, comes right up. Ian, do you have any thoughts on your socials or anything else?
Yeah, my Twitter is at G5Gibson, and on YouTube and Instagram it's at G_Gator_G.
Nice. That is the show. That is the last of the regular season shows, so it gets much easier for us. We only have to do prep for 6 games. The playoffs is only 4 games each, so it makes it a lot easier for us. These shows have been a lot of work. I watch the 15 to 20 minute recaps of all these games. I think I did 16 or 17 today. We covered 20 games, so it's a lot of work to put on this show. And I'm greatly appreciative of Ian for doing the research and knowing all about these teams. And thank you for watching. We will talk to you guys on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we'll talk to you guys then. All right, take care.